Good afternoon, everybody. We're so glad you're here today. I'm Sharon Spurlock. I'm the Senior Director of Family Education at the St. Louis ARC, and we've got a great panel for today's Q&A, all about the different groups that you can be a part of at the St. Louis ARC. You name it, we have a group for it. So you're going to learn all about the groups that are being offered across the agency today. So before I kind of launch us off, it's kind of a weird scene today. I'm going to be both a panelist and a hostess. So before I start off with the panel component, I want to introduce all of our wonderful colleagues that are here today. And I'm going to start with Emma Burrows.
Good afternoon. My name is Emma Burrows. I am the coordinator of community living here at the St. Louis ARC, which that is a fancy way of saying that I provide direct support, and I also manage our Pre-ISLA program, which is one of our independent living programs and training programs.
Hello, everyone. My name is Gabby Mansell. I am a family navigator and I'm on the family supports team.
Thank you. I'm Leanna. I'm the therapist at the St. Louis ARC. So I see adults that we support individually, and then I help host support groups.
Hey everyone, I'm Mary Ann Tolliver, and I have been with the ARC for the last 40 years. And I am now the Director of Senior Services and Residential Navigation. So I do a lot of training with our staff as well as with families and bring new people into our residential world.
Thank you all. All right. So when we were talking about this presentation, we kind of figure out what we wanted to share with you all. And we thought it was really important that we really walk through what the idea behind support groups is, why we think that they're important enough for us to invest all this wonderful time in, and what we're hoping you're getting from our support group. So I'm using a life course reference, as I often do. One of the principles of the life course is called the 3 buckets of support. And this is researched information that says that when people are trying to plan and organize, that they need 3 things to be able to actually feel confident in the decisions that they're going to make. The first bucket is discovery and navigation, that you need to know what's out there. How can you decide where you want to have your apartment, or what kind of relationships you want to have if you don't know what's out there? Who's the pool? So finding out as much information as you can, connecting and networking, that's being able to talk to people that have had similar experiences to you, so that you can learn from them and share stories with each other. And then finally, having access to goods and services so that you can actually pursue what it is that you want. So for me, support groups is so great because we actually have a chance to do all 3 of those things in a support group setting. Support groups bring people together that have a common interest, they have common roles, or demographically, they're kind of in a similar situation, and they're able to learn from each other. Sometimes we provide educational information. We always provide resources so that you know what's going to happen and you can talk to each other. So some of our support groups are divided by a role a person plays, whether that's that they're a dad, or maybe they're a self-advocate. We have groups that are divided by common interests, like having an interest in independent living or housing, or a demographic, like our groups for people that are transitioning into adult life, or our caregivers for older adults. So that's sort of how we've chosen to organize our support groups, is finding that commonality that's going to help connect people. And then within those groups, as I said, we want to make sure you're getting information from us. So often in a support group, we'll start off with a theme, provide a little bit of information to kind of get the conversation rolling, and then spend a good amount of time in the encouragement zone, where families are going to talk about what they're experiencing, people with disabilities are going to talk about how they've applied what we talked about in different settings in their lives. They'll ask questions and maybe answer each other's questions. And then while that's happening, our team of very knowledgeable staff is thinking about resources that we can bring to the table when issues come up so that we can share those resources with you. And I shared an integrated support star because often we'll use a tool like this to make sure that we're pulling resources from many different aspects, that you're getting some technology resources, some things based in the community, some things to focus on about your person's strengths and skills that can be built, and also eligibility type of resources. So something that happens a lot with the family support team is that we think about if we're meeting the needs of the people that come to us for support. So we have started many new groups over the years, and we've dissolved many groups over the years. And the reason we will start a group, it's kind of organic. As we are fielding information and referral phone calls or doing navigation with families, you start to notice that there's issues that start to dominate the conversation. All of a sudden, you're getting a whole bunch of calls about struggles with housing, or a bunch of young women that just don't seem to have a good network of support to be able to get their needs met. And so as those things happen, we start to evaluate, would this make a good group? What would we want this to look like? Who do we want to be at the table? And so when we start a new group, we try and market it very clearly as to who the target audience is and what we're going to be covering. It's incredibly important that if you're interested in a group, that you let us know. And even if you can't go, if you're interested in a group and we've scheduled it on a Wednesday evening when you have your personal training happening, let us know. I'd really like to come to this, but Wednesday is not good for me. Because the interesting thing about a support group is that if you don't have more than a couple of people there, you're not going to really get the support you need. And so unfortunately, we've had to dissolve groups that I thought would be really amazing, important groups for people, but we weren't able to do them because we didn't have the interest that we thought. So that's the entire presentation component of this. Would anybody in the panel like to add on anything that I said?
I guess I would add that you had one of the core components of a good support group, right? And I just want to emphasize that some of these support groups really focus on that encouragement piece, and some of them really focus on that information and resources piece. Ideally, you would get all three of those things, but some of them are a little bit heavier in one category than the other.
And that should be driven by the people that are coming. You know, if we're doing our job as moderators, facilitators of a group, we start to get a feel for that group. And Marianne will probably be able to talk about that when she talks about caregivers for older adults. They've been a cohesive group for probably over a decade now. So when that group comes together, we tend to sit back a lot because they are going to drive that conversation about the connections that they have with each other. All right, so we're going to go now to the ARC support group page. I think this is a great place if you are thinking about maybe this is something I'd like to have. I'd like to gain some support from other people that are connected to me. We've got a whole long list of groups. Look how long it is. It just keeps going and going and going. So our format today is that we're going to go just point by point down this list and talk about all the individual groups. If you have questions about them, or maybe if you participated in a group and want to share something that was really great for you or something you struggled with in a group, please let us know. So first off, we've got a video from Mr. Mark Keeley to talk about the Dads group.
Hello, I'm Mark Keeley, President and CEO of the St. Louis Arc. Thank you so much for your interest in our St. Louis Arc's Dads group. This group started in 2010 after decades of watching women, mostly mothers, naturally connect with one another, but dads not connecting to one another. Men are typically not raised to socialize or share their feelings and emotions with anyone. I know from over 45 years in this field, dads who have sons and daughters with disabilities face unique challenges and can benefit from discussing it with others who understand those challenges. This dads group is extremely informal and it's not intended to be therapy. I learned early on with this group that it functions better if dads are able to have an adult beverage should they choose to have one. To meet this goal, I host this monthly meetings in a restaurant alternating between Richmond Heights and Kirkwood. I order appetizers and pizzas for the group, and you, if you participate, are responsible for any beverages that you order. The meetings are typically the second Tuesday of the month, and they are always held from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m., but people come and go as their schedule permits. I ask for reservations in advance so that I can save enough seats at the restaurant. Once the majority of the men have arrived that have registered for the meeting, I have everybody go around and introduce themselves and share whatever they want to share about their family. They can talk about just who is in their family. They can talk about current challenges they're facing. Once everybody's done the introductions, then the discussion is really up to the group. Typically, people turn and talk to the person next to them and find out more about them. Or if they heard somebody speak about a situation that they're familiar with, they might move and sit next to that person. I do not bring topics to this, nor do I push our services during this. I am there just to be a resource for everybody and to connect you with one another. If there are resources within the ARC, I will share those with you. If there are resources within the community, I will share those with you. Typically, the dads also share resources that worked for them. They may or may not be related to the ARC. Again, this is not about promoting the ARC. This is connecting you with other dads in the community. On average, the group has about 9 to 15 dads each month. There are new people joining every month, so it doesn't matter when you join the group. All you have to do is let me know that you're interested in participating in this group. Once you send me an email, I will add you to our email list. You'll get an invitation 1 week prior to the event telling you the location and the time and asking you to make an RSVP so that I save you a seat. You can contact me about this group and learn more about this group by emailing me at mkeeley@slark.org. Again, that's mkeeley@slark.org. I hope that you're interested in this group and I look forward to meeting you.
All right, Mark started us off with a wonderful introduction on his group. And he pointed out a couple things. That group leans really into that connection between dads, and it's a non-therapeutic group. And we'll talk about non-therapeutic and therapeutic groups today. We are not all trained counselors, so we cannot operate a group that's therapeutic legitimately. So a lot of us might be social workers or have other kinds of backgrounds that allow us to really facilitate a group, but not necessarily a therapeutic group. So our newest group is our Empowered Black Moms group. Similarly to the dads group, this was a demographic of people that tended to have low attendance at our other groups. And in one-on-one conversation with Black moms, we heard things about how they felt disconnected. Sometimes we even heard stories about how they felt like they would be perceived wrong if they tried to advocate for their family members. And there was some concerns about community perception. So this is a great new group where people are coming together and just sharing what their personal stories are, really building that community. Parent Cafe is a formatted parenting support group. Really, the topics are all about parenting that would provide protective factors in a child's life, resilience, communication, knowing about their disability. We've all been trained to run these parent cafes, and they're designed with a theme each month or each time we have it, and we help families to choose questions that they talk about in round robin opportunities at Parent Cafe. Right now that's on hiatus, and we hope to bring that back later in the year or in 2026. Caregiver to advisor, we have a group coming up very shortly. This used to be called Joyzen. One of the things as we looked at our values as an organization and partnered with UMSL and the Succeed program there, we realized that we had a lot of young adults that were striving to be making decisions for themselves, that often were going through what all young adults go through, where they needed to have experiences that they might fail at, or they might have to learn a hard lesson. And it was hard for parents. So in this group, we spent a lot of time talking about how to step to the side, not away, step to the side and let their children, their adult children, make decisions for themselves and face consequences, and how we can help those parents to support themselves when that causes them to have anxiety, and to have that support from each other as they are trying to kind of shift the way they've parented after really being very strong advocates for their children when they were younger.
The Uplift Group. Some of you may recognize the next couple words in there, the transition age to adult. There was previously another support group similar to this until we learned about other needs within our community. So we designed the Uplift Group, which is a in-person but with a hybrid option group that meets quarterly on Tuesdays, and it's from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. This is going to be in two pieces, which tends to be a little confusing, so bear with me. A large piece of this is going to be a caregiver group. We are going to have 2 hours where we can focus on a topic of conversation and discuss how it's worked well for us in the community or things of that sort, and also have another possible hour of chat with each other about what we can do for each other and other resources in the community as well. So that first half being a lot of information being provided, and then that second half being more of a social gathering where you can listen and talk with other caregivers that may be going through the same thing that you are or have in the past. With that being said, we understand that as caregivers, it can be challenging getting out and about to some of these support groups. So we connected with Bounce, and there is in the other room, this is going to be at our Worcester location, and in the other room, we have some wonderful staff there to hang out with your loved ones during that event. So during those 2 hours, there will be staff that are leading a program of all kinds of different activities throughout that 2 hours. We do lean towards the caregivers coming, having their loved ones being ages 16 to 30, as we think that is a good transition age to have those types of topics to talk about. So when you do RSVP with us, you have the option to RSVP as you coming alone or you bringing your loved one with you as well, and they'll just be in the room next door to us. And then also, if you need a hybrid option, we can support that as well. And yeah, you will RSVP to next@slark.org for those.
Innovative Housing is a group that I currently facilitate. It is a virtual group, and it happens about every 6 weeks. This group is for anybody that's kind of looking at alternatives to the current available housing resources. So we recognize that we had a number of people, individuals with disabilities and families who didn't necessarily think that they would be good candidates for the Connect program, independent supported living, where they were only going to get 50 hours maximum of support per week, and probably receiving that every, twice a week. It was just not quite going to be enough, but they would probably not be getting eligibility for a comprehensive Medicaid waiver in the near future. So trying to figure out how to deal with that gap in services, trying to be creative and figuring out what was available to them. So when we get together, if there's something new happening, we will do a short presentation about that. We've had people present on housing models from other states before. We've had people talk about come in and do presentations on purchasing a home, accessibility in the home, all kinds of different things to kind of help us build our creativity as we think about it. But we've also had families start to come together and find potential roommate matches. We have currently 3 families that are developing properties where not only their family members might live, but other people with disabilities might have opportunities to live there also with a family member as a landlord. So it's a really an open forum for conversation. Really, it's a very fun group to be engaged with, where I think the parents take a significant lead in what we discuss and what's really happening in our community. We also, that group is one of the groups that has both people with disabilities and families present. And we learn a lot from the adults with disabilities that come to the table and talk about what's important to them, what they're working on as they're moving towards their own community housing changes. And it's really an enjoyable group to be in. So I hope you will contact me if you are interested in being a part of that group.
So this group meets on the third Friday of every month from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. When we started this group, as Sharon had said, at least a decade ago or more, we were face to face. Everybody showed up. At that time, I bet you we probably had 15, 20 people who were coming having coffee and a little bite of something to eat. And everybody would share their story of what's happening with a family member, what's happening with them, what their struggles are, what successes that they've had over, the last month. And new people come into this group on a regular basis. Since COVID, we now are meeting virtually on Zoom. But we started also trying to bring in that face to face again. So that hybrid group, we have some every once in a while, there'll be somebody who will come to the office and then we'll all Zoom into the same group together. This is a great group of both women and men. Mostly women, but there are a couple of men. One's a dad, the other person is a brother, and where they are supporting their family members in talking about any of the issues that are coming up. So it's a big piece of connecting and networking for the families. And as there's other issues that kind of like when you kind of get some of those themes of things that are happening, like with Social Security or Medicaid, we'll have somebody come in who is has great knowledge in those areas so that each family member can ask questions and get a better understanding of what this entity is trying to do. Because Lord knows everything with Social Security can be totally difficult, never straightforward, and let's get on the phone and wait. So people talk about their frustrations, but they also share what's happening and a really good push of how people are taking care of themselves. So if you'd like to be part of the supporters of older adults with disabilities, please come and join us on that Friday, either virtually or hybrid, and meet with a group of people who want to talk about what's happening. Very much a group who will kind of lead and move things the direction and conversation is pretty organic there, which is wonderful. And we still have one person who lived in St. Louis who has now moved to Chicago who's still coming to meetings. She has great faith in the ARC and thinks that this group is the best because people are sharing their resources and other strategies that have been helpful for them. So the next group I'm going to talk about is called Planning Forward. It's a Planning Forward series, which we do twice a year. usually in the fall and in the spring. We're in the midst of one right now. Carrie Slummy is the person who is now leading that group. And what happens with this group, and it's they began face to face and then moved into a virtual meeting group via Zoom. And the purpose of this is for people to look at all the different domains of life and figure out, one, what are the questions that you need to ask yourself as you are planning for the future. It's definitely hits the 3 buckets of support for discovery and navigation, connect and networking, and access to goods and services. This group starts with a focus on the individuals with a disability for the first half hour, and they listen and talk about what's important to them. The domains are healthy living, social spirituality, community living, health and safety, and a couple of other ones. And each week we talk about a different domain. And so we start with the person with the disability and have conversations with them and share back and forth. And then the next hour is focused on the parents or the individuals who are the main people who are providing support to their family member. And we do a lot of sharing and looking at what is important to them, what's not important to them, and to really get and grasp what they want the future to look like for their family member. And the one thing that we know is time changes, decisions change. So we kind of go through that.
I'm going to ask Leanna to tell us a little bit about some of our therapeutic opportunities at the ARC.
So I run a couple support groups, one of which is the co-ed support group, and we meet once a month. That's a therapeutic support group. That one is more of a closed group, which means typically we're not adding a ton of people all the time. And typically whenever somebody's getting counseling with me, if I see that they could benefit from that kind of group, we get them connected. And that one, and then Fabulous Friends, which I co-facilitate with Marianne, we focus a lot on socializing. So we'll all have dinner together before. And then the next part is more of the therapy piece. So I'm kind of there to help the therapeutic conversation, and I really try to help the group members go to each other for support and making those connections. Fabulous Friends is pretty similar, where the group has known each other for a really long time. It's really special, but they've come a really long way. They've been together for, I think, over 15 years now. So they all know each other really well and can really depend on each other, which is great. The co-ed group is pretty similar, where they've been together for a really long time. And that kind of group is really nice because they've known each other for so long that they really start to have these great conversations about support with each other.
Before we leave, can you talk about the age ranges in both co-ed and the Fabulous Friends group? I hope at some point we'll be able to either start new groups that meet the same demographic, or maybe expand those groups. If we do ever have anybody that leaves them, they do tend to stay around for a long time.
The age range, so for Fabulous Friends, it used to be called Fabulous 50s, but now everyone's older than 50. So it's Fabulous Friends now. So everyone's a little bit older in that one. And then co-ed group, I think people are like in their late 20s to early 40s in that group. We have some people who are in their 50s, and it's a lot of people who are in the process of learning to live on their own, getting their first jobs, kind of learning that independent part of life, and making connections later in adulthood.
Yes, the St. Louis Self Advocates. This is hosted by Hannah Satterwhite. She's also on our family support team. I support her most of those Thursdays as well. They are through Zoom from 4 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. And this is for adults with a developmental disability, and we really discuss a lot of political engagement and things of the sort on the local, state, and um, large levels. So we talk about a lot of policies and changes that may have to do with them. We discuss how it could change or affect their lives, and then we work together to teach different type of ways of getting that self-advocate story out there for them to tell others, how things in their community and wider are going and how they're affecting themselves and others. So it's a lot of fun being able to hear from a lot of different types of people in the St. Louis area and things that they're looking forward to seeing or not looking forward to seeing upcoming in different elections or policy changes. Hannah did want me to mention that we do try to have 3 to 4 in-person meetings a year. Those are usually more fun activities rather than legislature or anything of that sort. Movie nights, trips to the St. Louis Zoo together, but it's a tight knit group. A lot of similar faces do continue to come back each week. So we're happy to keep going with that. And if you wanted to attend, RSVP through Hannah Satterwhite or through our meetup page to get our Zoom link.
This is a very unusual group, and I think it's a dedication from both Gabby and Hannah. We do it every single week, and that's really a hard amount of time to spend in one area, but it's so important, and people have become so invested in that weekly meeting. It's cool for me to see that that's held on so long.
Women's group is hosted on the second Tuesday of every month from 4:30 until 6 p.m. This is a hybrid meeting, and so we love if folks are able to attend in person, but we also understand if they're not, and we have an option available via Zoom. This group is catered to women ages 18 and older. We say with or without disabilities. It is primarily currently women with disabilities, but that being said, we've started to notice a few neurotypical folks kind of trickle in every once in a while. And yeah, so it's pretty structured. It actually started a few years ago. It must have been in 2023, but we noticed that a lot of young women were reaching out looking for more connection with one another. And Valentine's Day was coming up. And so we hosted a Galentine's Day meetup. And after hosting that Galentine's meetup, it went so well that we wanted to continue. And that group has grown from just, I think, 4 or 5 participants, maybe the first time, to, I would say we have an average of 10 to 15 people show up, half in person and half virtually. So it is structured where everybody shares just 1 or 2 emotions that they're feeling when they first join. So we always do introductions with names and how we're feeling. And then we give everybody that joins an opportunity to speak, whether they want to share an update or if they want to ask for advice. We also give people the option after sharing what's on their mind to either ask for feedback or just ask for reassurance, right? Sometimes we come to these support groups and we don't really want advice. We just want to have people encouraging us along the way. So either one is great, and we welcome anybody and everybody to join. And yeah, to RSVP or to be added to our email list, give me a call, text me, email me, whatever works best for you. I'll go ahead and pivot to our virtual roommate meetings. These are a support group that we've held for at least a few years. They used to be primarily held in person pre-COVID. And it's kind of changed over the years. It's now a hybrid meeting. In order to be added to that email list or to get updates, people will fill out a roommate profile. These meetings are intended for folks that are looking for a roommate. Ideally, folks that are wanting to be in our pre-ISLA or ISLA program, which means folks that are wanting to live on their own in market rate housing, and they would be receiving support staff, minimal support throughout the week to live independently. So we try and facilitate these meetings quarterly. We have noticed, unfortunately, a decrease in attendance recently. And so it has not been held quite as often. In adjacent to the roommate meetings, we do have a roommate spreadsheet that we keep and send out. And so that spreadsheet compiles all of the information gathered from the filled out roommate profiles. So backing up a little bit, if I were looking for a roommate, if I were somebody that wanted to join this meetup, right, and I really wanted to find a roommate, I would email or call me, and then I would be sent a roommate profile that I would fill out. I would fill out my information, tell somebody what I'm looking for in a roommate, and what kind of qualities I'm looking for, what my budget is, what kind of area I'm looking to live in, what's important in a place to live to me. And then all of that information gets compiled and uploaded into that spreadsheet that gets sent out so that folks can look at other names and other qualities of people and hopefully find a match. So even if there isn't a virtual roommate meeting being held or coming up, I am still happy to help folks get connected with each other. So if you see a name on that roommate spreadsheet and you say, oh, hey, I noticed that Leanna's also looking for a roommate, and she also really loves dogs. And I love walking dogs, and I have a dog, and she also wants to live in the Maplewood area. Maybe then I want to reach out to Leanna. So I'm happy to, as a staff person, facilitate introductions between folks if they feel like they need that. So even outside of the meetings that are being held for everybody to join, I'm happy to try and make roommate connections too.
Thank you, Emma. And Emma also has a closed group that is kind of focused in similar ways to the virtual roommate group. It's people that are waiting for the pre-ISLA services. Is there anything you want to add about that?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. That is called our Independent Living Resource Group, or ILRG for short. I actually co-host that one with Gabby, so thank you, Gabby. That again is a hybrid meeting. If somebody's interested in joining or wants more information, they can reach out to me. It is a closed group that is intended for folks that are in our pretty extensive pre-ISLA waiting pool. And so we really want people to be familiar with the pre-ISLA program and kind of know what they're getting into before joining that group. But always happy to have a conversation and invite everybody along.
I'm getting tired just listening to all of this stuff. So we're getting close, y'all, but I think it's so important that you see how many opportunities there are for you to find your folks. So these next two are mine to talk about. We have a group for people with disabilities that also identifies part of the LGBTQIA plus community. We noticed we had a group of people that were having a hard time meeting each other and needed that support. This group is run by one of our employees at the ARC, Dominic Casola, and it meets monthly, but at various dates and times so that we can align with events that are happening in the local LGBTQIA plus community. So we've gone to the exhibit at the History Museum that was about that community. We've participated in Pride activities. This month they're having a picnic on Art Hill. So lots of variety in the types of activities that are occurring. It's, I think, a safe space to explore a little bit if you're not sure how to make those connections, and a good opportunity for people to go out and meet folks that maybe they haven't had a chance to meet before. The next group is the Adults with Asperger's Social Group, which I think is a little bit of a misnomer. This group was formed by when we merged with the St. Louis Asperger's Society about 15 years ago, I guess, one of the charges they had for us is that they really wanted us to help create a group for their young adults that were aging out of their teen group. And so we met and we developed this group for adults with Asperger's. Over time, it's become a really welcoming group for any person with a disability and a skill set that allows them to travel somewhat independently in the community. We don't provide a lot of oversight at this group, so people are not going to be, if they walk away from the group, that's okay. We're not going to go track them down. People often are coming to this group with their own. We don't provide transportation, so they come and go with transportation as they choose to. But it's a really solid group. Over the last few years, it's really grown to almost every meeting has 20 to 30 people. So it's a really nice space to get to meet some other people. It's a large enough group that if you have a special interest that maybe you struggle to find other people that share, you'll probably find somebody there that's interested in that. It's a group for people that have some social anxiety. And if they come to the group and they don't want to talk for the first 3 months that they're there, we're going to kind of let them have some space until they're ready to be a part of our group. And it's typically a dinner group, but it's also been around long enough that we have members that host events at their homes now, including game nights, barbecues, and swim parties. So a really fun group that meets on the second Friday of every month. The next group are for siblings because we know how important sibling relationships are. If you're a sibling, you can go to any of the groups. As Marianne said, one of the men in the caregiver group for supporting older adults is a sibling, but we also want to give you a space to talk about issues specific to siblings. So adult sibling happy hours happen kind of quarterly. Our next one has just been scheduled for November 19th. We meet at a bar or restaurant for happy hour, and it's a growing group, I would say. We're still looking for this group to really find its footing. Siblings, I think, are some of the busiest people on the planet. So it's really hard to also pin down a sibling who might be caring for a parent or children. So we do what we can to try and reach out to that group. And that's group is really for the sibling without the disability. Sometimes because of circumstances, siblings bring their brother or sister with them, but we also want them to have the space to be able to meet other siblings and make those connections. And then the last group we're going to talk about is our SIB shops. So we have been running SIB shops for younger children that have a brother or sister with a disability, or tight cousin relationships for kids ages 7 to 12. It's every other month from 4:30 to 6. This one's also face-to-face at our family center on Warson Road. It's a fun, somewhat therapeutic group where we use games and activities to help kids think about what's so great about having a sibling with a disability and what things can be sometimes challenging and a barrier for them. April Nixon runs this group, so you can reach out to her if you want to get on the list for this. And it's another group that I think we've got siblings in our adult sibling group that once attended our SIB shops, and they talk now as adults how important it was for them to find that space. So hopefully if you know somebody that would benefit from this group, you will share it with them. So that was the long list of support groups we offer. We do have a question, and I'm not sure what the answer is, but if somebody wants to answer it, just raise your hand. Somebody's wanting to know, how do I figure out what group I should join? Is there somebody I can talk to? How do I figure that out? I have an answer, but I'd love to know what your answers are.
This is a great question, and it's not an unfamiliar question either. So there's a couple different routes you could probably take if you're already working within the St. Louis Arc with somebody that you're comfortable with chatting about your needs and asking a group that they might suggest would be right for you, you can always go about it that way. Or you can go through our intake process through our contact us form that you can find on our SLARC website, and let us know that you're interested in getting more information about support groups. And that'll link you to our intake and eligibility specialist, April, and she can either discuss it with you or hand you off to one of us navigators to also discuss with you some different ones that may be best for your situation and your lifestyle.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. I will also just add that sometimes joining a new support group can feel really intimidating for the first time. And so I think if you're noticing that you might fit into a couple of these boxes, it's okay to just start with one. And then when you go, ask the facilitator and say, hey, do you know anything about this other support group? Or, hey, I was looking through this list and can you go down this list with me? Because I do think that any one of us would be happy to take the time to really go through that list with you and see which ones you might be a good fit for and you might enjoy, or just get you connected. Maybe it's just adding another person, but yeah, I think just starting with, if you're not going to go through that process, right? If you find one that you're like most interested in, any one of us would be happy to help get you connected to others too.
Fantastic. I'm going to stick with you too. Gabby, I'm coming back to you. Somebody mentioned getting on an email list. And so for all of us, if you participate in our group once or express an interest, we're going to put you on a master list for the group. Gabby, what happens when you get on that master list? Can you describe the kind of email you would send out after a support group?
Absolutely. So after our support groups, we all feel like it's really important that we also share with you all of the tips and tools and tricks that we had already talked about and send it to everyone who may be on our email list that was or wasn't present. So after attending a group or even just being a part of that email list, a couple days down the road, you'll likely see a follow-up email that's going to talk about what we talked about, some links, and what to look forward to the next time, just so that everybody has everything at their fingertips. So you don't have to worry in present at the moment to take as many notes. And we want you to just be able to get that information in multiple ways.
It's really hard to get out and go to support groups, especially after a long day. But if you stick with it, kind of how women's group has looked and co-ed group and the Fabulous Friends, this is huge support for them. So just getting into the regular rhythm of attending, it can really help you create a good support system, which is so needed. So thank you for bringing that up, Emma. I apologize if I'm repeating what you said.
I think we talked about it pre-meeting, so that's great. Yeah, women's group started with just a few people, and I won't name names, but there's one young woman that's been attending since the very first session. And back then and I'm speaking on behalf of her experience, so I apologize if any of this is incorrect. But she wasn't as connected as she is now. And now it's interesting because she comes to women's group and there are other women and she'll be like, oh, well, I talked to this person, the other night, and this is what this person said. And I was really, validated or reassured because we talked outside of the group. And that wasn't something that she necessarily had connection to before joining, but she stuck with it. I mean, it took a while for her to find people that she really felt strongly connected to, but she kept coming regardless of whether she felt an immediate connection to somebody else or not. And yeah, the importance of just kind of sticking with it and continuing to show up is how we meet new people and make new friends.
I'm so glad, you guys. That's really kind of comes back to the very last thing I wanted to say. So that helps me to wrap up here. I think that people, it is hard to make time for the groups. And I think you're also putting yourself in a vulnerable position. I noticed that you all had the word vulnerability in the description for the women's group. And it's not just the women's group. If you're talking about being an older parent and you're worried about what's going to happen when you're gone, that is super vulnerable. If you're talking about something that, you know, your kid in school is struggling with and how it's impacting your family, that is vulnerable. And the only way to feel like you are able to have those conversations is to come and get to know people where you feel like you can trust them. So we don't expect you to necessarily walk into a group and immediately share your whole story. Come and listen, come and see who these people are, see if it feels like a space for you. And if it is, I think you'll find that it holds a lot of value. I'm in a support group at the ARC through one of our kind of ERG efforts. And it's really nice to be able to talk to people who I know have a certain commonality with me about what's going on. It's helpful to have that resource in my life. So I wish that for you as well. Thank you all for giving me this time. Thank all of you out there for coming and listening to us today. I hope you'll consider a support group, whether it's at the ARC or somewhere else, that will really help you. We did have somebody ask about St. Charles in the pre-questions, and I will say our groups that are virtual, people come from to those groups from out of state, from all over the place. So if there's no charge, no funding connected to support groups, so anybody that can get there can come. So if you're in Illinois, if you're in St. Charles or Jefferson County or Franklin County and you can come, please do. We'd love to see you.